Karishma wrote to me to come. This is my first young investigator meeting, so I'm very delighted to be here. So I want to share my journey so far in academia, and I'm hoping some parts of it will resonate with you all, and there will be some lessons that you can take for your own career path. So I am currently a professor at Regional Center for Biotechnology. We are located at Faridabad. We are a UNESCO Category 2 institution, and our funding is from DBT, and we are the academic arm of DBT. The BRIC program that Dr. Sanjay Mishra mentioned is executed at RCT. So can I have the pointer? So my journey began with BSc Microbiology at Gargi College in Delhi University, very long time ago. And this was a very relatively new course at that time, and it was offered only in 3 different colleges in Delhi University. And I was the second batch joining in this college, Gargi College. This was then followed by biotechnology in IIT Roorkee. It was known as University of Roorkee at that time. So one thing that happened in Roorkee was in this biotechnology program, they had a very extensive biophysics course which extended to up to 2 semesters. And there was an amazing teacher, Professor Ritu Bartwal, who taught this course to us for 2 semesters, and this laid the foundation, I think, in me for biophysics. So at that time, the structure of Tata box binding protein complex to DNA was published in Cell, and this was from laboratory of Professor Steve Purdy. So I wrote to Stephen and I expressed my interest in pursuing a postdoc with him. And after an hour of interview on the telephone, and those days there were no Google Meet or Zoom, so we talked on the telephone for an hour or so, and he offered me a position for pursuing postdoc in his laboratory. So I joined Rockefeller, and within 2 weeks of my joining, he announced that he's leaving Rockefeller and joining a company which he had started in San Diego. So he offered that I can continue my postdoc with him in the company because he was allowed to take some of his grants with him at that time. So I could potentially continue my postdoctoral research in San Diego in a company. So that is the point when I thought of very deeply that do I really want to move to a company at this point of time, or do I want to pursue research in the university setting? So I was very happy to be at Rockefeller. But within 2 weeks, I sort of realized that I have to make this choice at this moment, even before I complete my postdoctoral studies. And at that point of time, I told Stephen that I do not want to move to a company, and I want to quit this offer and would like to find another postdoctoral position within the US. So the good thing, the sad thing was that I had no job. But the good thing was that I was in the US and I could actually physically go and meet people. And because like those days, internet had just come in, and meeting people one-on-one really helped. So I was in New York City, and there are a lot of good institutes in New York. I interviewed all over again at Sloan Kettering, at Cornell, at Rockefeller, at Mount Sinai, and Seth Dars then agreed to offer me a position in his laboratory to pursue. He's a structural biologist. He also was doing X-ray crystallography at that time in bacterial transcription. So I was happy that I could stay in the university setting, and that sort of sealed the deal for me that I'm going to stay in academia. After this postdoctoral stint, I moved to NCBS as a visiting fellow, and in 2013, I joined as an assistant professor in Regional Center for Biotechnology, where I currently work, and I'm a professor there. Next slide, please. So, for the people who are going to start their research program, I want to say that when you get started with your lab, you need to think deeply about what would you like to pursue. A lot of us try to continue the projects, the questions that we are addressing during our postdoc work. So I think on the previous slide, please. previously, after this, yeah. That's working. Okay. So I think one has to find the passion. For me, it was basic sciences, where I want to understand the mechanistic insights into the bacterial transcription. You have to look at the knowledge base that you have now after the end of your postdoc and the skill set that you have acquired. Also, the study that you want to pursue should be relevant for funding agencies because you need to apply for grants, and also it should maybe, perhaps, align with some of the national goals. So then it becomes easier. Next slide, please. Now. So the research, building a research program, you needs a little bit of planning. You need to outline your short-term goals, in the sense what you want to do in the next 5 years. Long-term goals, what you want to do or achieve in the next 15 years or so. The resource allocation, you have to write a lot of grants, secure funding, manage budget and resources, and the lab setup and management, which means that you need to know what kind of infrastructure you would require to pursue your passion. And of course, you will be involved in hiring, and you will have to establish some protocols to begin with in your laboratory. So for me, this was a mix of my training. So since I did not want to continue what I did for my postdoc, I decided to pursue addressing the transcription regulation of flagellar and biofilm genes in Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So this is a mix of my training in microbiology, in structural biology, and also in X-ray crystallography, the technique that I had picked up, and in transcription. So what we do is to determine structures of the transcription factors that are involved in regulating the process of flagellar assembly as well as biofilm formation in Pseudomonas. And the structural data that is generated is then used for identifying inhibitors of biofilms using either in silico drug discovery and addressing a broader question of AMR, antimicrobial resistance, how to deal with that. Infections, it causes a lot of morbidity and mortality in immunocompromised patients, and it is listed as a critical pathogen in the PBT-WHO priority list of antibiotic resistant bacteria. So it is relevant for funding agencies, as I said earlier. And one of the aspects of this which we address is flagellar motility, which is not only important, this flagella and the pathogen is not only important for its motility, but it's also important for adherence, for biofilm formation, for its virulence, and ability to cause the disease. So we have shown in our lab that if you have aflagellate variants of this bacteria, then it fails to cause the disease, and also it is less virulent and it is less efficient in biofilm formation. So what are biofilms that I am saying? So flagella in the bacteria, it has a single polar flagella, and the flagella in the bacteria is important for biofilm formation because it helps to sense the surface, helps with the initial attachment of the organism to the surface. Once the organism is attached, the flagellar genes get downregulated, and there is a lot of exopolysaccharide that is produced by the bacteria, which encapsulates the colonies, bacterial colonies. So this exopolysaccharide matrix, also referred to as biofilms, is impervious to antimicrobials, and therefore the bacteria inside these biofilms become 1,000 times resistant to antibiotics. So this is another aspect that we address in the lab. We are looking at transcription factors, structures of transcription factors which regulate this biofilm formation. And what we have figured is a lot of transcription factors which modulate motility in the bacteria also affect the formation of biofilms. So this is a structure of regulated. These genes are not expressed all simultaneously, but they are expressed in a cascade-like fashion, and their assembly or their expression is tightly regulated at transcription level. And this is controlled by dedicated transcription factors. Let me just change the slide. So you can see here there are a bunch of transcription factors listed here: FLEQ, FLEF, FLHF, FLESR. And over the years, so I have been in RCB for about 11 years, and over the years we have now determined structures of most of these transcription factors. Next slide, please. as you can see here. And some of these regulate polarity of the flagella, some of these regulate numbers of the flagella that are assembled in the organism, and some of them, as you can see here, regulate the assembly of the entire nanomachine. So one of the important aspect of an independent research program, next slide please, is seeking mentorship. And for me, the experience that I gained in Dr. Dinkar Salunki's lab during PhD and in Professor Seth Dart's lab during my postdoc has been very invaluable. So I highly recommend that you please find experienced individuals in your field who can guide you, provide you insights, and inspire you through your academic journey. It's been 20 years since I completed my PhD, and longer than that, since I completed my PhD, but I'm still in touch with my mentor, my PhD supervisor, as well as my postdoc supervisor, and I seek guidance from them time to time whenever I feel the need. So that is very important to have mentors when you are in your own academic journey. Next slide, please. So and this place, and this is not an easy journey. It's not very easy to set up your own lab. You need to know what kind of infrastructure that you will need to run. And in case of structural biology, especially X-ray crystallography, it is the infrastructure that is required is very expensive, if I can add. So how does it happen? How does it help? At least in my case, what worked was the value of teamwork and collaboration. So RCB has 4 different structural biology groups. There is Professor Deepak Nair, Professor Venkateshan Krishnan, and Dr. Prem Kaushal. There are 4 structural biology groups, so every infrastructure that we set up is shared between the 4 labs, and it becomes like a teamwork, and collective efforts yield faster results than individual endeavors. So if I were to set up the entire infrastructure myself, it would have taken me a lot longer and more effort in trying to convince a funding agency to invest in such an infrastructure. But 4 labs mean that we at least 40 to 50 individual lab personnel who will get trained on these techniques, who will be able to organize a lot more training programs, workshop, conferences, which gives us a lot of opportunities to network with people, because there are 4 investigators, and together we do a lot of conferences in RCB, which allows us to network with the other structural biology community. Also, can you please go back? Yeah. So, also it also gives any structural biologist from the country, if they visit RCB, it gives us a good opportunity to interact with them, network with them so structural biology is a strong field that is pursued in RCB. It's considered to be one of the strong fields that is pursued in RCB. Next slide. I also want to highlight the importance of social media in your academic journey. So, as I said that I wasn't pursuing the work that I was doing in my postdoc when I came back to set up my laboratory. When I started thinking about setting up my laboratory, I did not want to continue what I was doing for my postdoc. And I started pursuing this flagellar and biofilm gene regulation. But I did not know of other biofilm labs in India. I did not know of other people who were doing similar work. And I was only looking at the biofilm from structural perspective. I needed to connect with other clinicians. I needed to connect with other labs who were doing animal experiments so that I could collaborate with them. So how do I connect with them? And when I was thinking about all these things, I saw a tweet from Karishma at that time, which says that help us build a connected biofilm community in India. Any idea of other labs working in clinical environmental biofilms in India? When I saw this tweet, I connected with her, and informally, we were about 20 of us got connected to each other through social media. We organized a lot of seminars of investigators in India as well as abroad, and we came together as a biofilm community. And we also realized, it was more of effort from Karishma's side as well as Snehal, who also realized that there is no structured community present in India. And this was the time when we were thinking that we should probably get this society registered, and this is the time when she moved Vidya Biosciences, but the rest of us thought that we should definitely go ahead and register us. and I'm delighted to tell you that this is a registered society, and most of us have never met each other. But we have met each other several times online. And Karthik is here, who's one of the organizers. This is my first meeting with Karthik, and he is on the same society as me, as a joint secretary. So, social media can play a huge role in your in networking, in collaborating, and finding the like-minded people. And if anybody would like to get registered to the society, you are most welcome. Also, I would like to mention that Karishma and I wrote a grant together. And again, we had never met in person up until that time, but we discussed on phone, we discussed on Zoom, we discussed on Google Meet, and we put together a grant addressing biofilms and antimicrobial resistance, which got funded, and it's an international Indo-Belgian grant, and support is from DBT for the Indian side. So this is a great opportunity. So do make use of the social media, and there's a lot of science happening out there. Next slide. So this all sounds very nice. We're going to set up a lab at the same time. How will this all work out? So at that time, I joined as a visiting scientist in NCPS, where the funding given to me was for 1 year. So in that 1 year, I had to decide whether I would want to apply for faculty position or how do I want to continue. And like I said, I had a very young child with me. I did not feel ready to set up my own lab. So what I did was to write a DST fast track grant, which gave me funding for 3 years. So I continued pursuing bacterial transcription. I was associated with another lab, but this was an independent, and I did publish in NAR and PLOS-ONE and so on. And when I was in the second year of my grant, again that feeling that what next I need to decide. And I got a very nice email from Apurva Salim, who was a dean of NCPS at that time. She was very clueless at that time, very young, and did not know what am I eligible for, because most of the fellowships that were there were for grants for that matter, were for people who had permanent positions. But at that point of time, I was on a soft position. Support from the institute, just 2 more slides. Support from the institute which worked in my favor. Another thing that I was told while I was on this grant and in soft position in NCPS, that now it's too late for you to apply for faculty position because you've already spent 3-4 years in India and nobody will entertain. I did face difficulty in the sense that many institutions, they have kind of an age criteria that you have to apply for faculty positions before you are 35. And I was over 35 by the time I felt I was ready. But I want to tell each one of you, do not self-reject yourself. Please apply. Please apply to all places that you think you should, and do not analyze that, I'm not good enough. Do not self-reject. Sanjay Mishra was also saying, you need to keep up with the trends, you need to learn new things. It's very easy in 10-year period, a lot of skills that you have acquired might become obsolete. So the end thing in structural biology now these days is cryo-EM. And because of the improvements in detectors and softwares, it is now possible to look at high-resolution structures of complexes using this technique. So recently we have now, my students have now solved the structure of RNA polymerase complex in complex DNA. I'm very excited to show you because this is, as I said, this is the technique which allows you to look at the molecule in 3 dimensions. So I have a small movie. Next slide, please. This is the RNA polymerase complex. It has 5 different subunits and a DNA bound to it. So you must learn new techniques, and this is for me a great achievement because I have had no formal training in cryo-EM, but because of it is just another technique of structural biology, one has to keep up with the trend. And the last, next slide. Last thing is that how does one measure the success? Of course, it will reflect in your publication. Of course, it will reflect in the grants that you are able to get. But the real measure of success will be the legacy and the mentorship that you leave. Earlier I used to be very excited receiving an email from a journal saying that your paper is accepted. But today I am equally excited to receive an email from a student who says that his or she is doing so well and they value the mentorship that they received in my laboratory. So do create such an environment in your lab where the science can flourish. Each individual that will come to your lab, the student or a postdoc or anybody else, will have very different personalities. And you will have to, your mentoring style will vary for each and every student that walks into your lab. But overall, you need to create an environment where good science can happen. And next slide. So this is the last one where I again tell you the importance of perseverance. Push through even though the situation is hard. It leads to personal growth and achievement. Value the teamwork, value collaboration, embrace the failures, learn from mistakes, build resilience. Success is through continuous improvement. Small improvements will happen, and that is how you will achieve success. And papers will be rejected, grants will be rejected. All this is a part of the game, and one has to just keep going on and move forward. Thank you so much.